Hello, this is Paul Newell, posted to my personal page, and I'm here with Mike. Mike, you want to introduce yourself now?
Hey, good morning. Mike Likier, a friend of Paul Newell, and we're here together with a message and an invitation.
Bless up, man. And Mike, listen, this cat is more than a friend, man. This is my timeless brother, man. We connected, and he's one of my Mankind Project brothers, man. And he's my brunch brother too, because we go out before this whole quarantine thing. We go out and we have conversation. And Mike, I consider Mike one of the fellow warriors in Jazz Army. And what I mean by that, he's one of those guys, like, I can see in his eyes, and I can feel in his heart. This dude is here for equity and equality for all people. So, Mike, I posted something about, my emotions. I came from an angry place in a post where I was talking about health and like why it's difficult for more people of color to really settle into being healthy because of the stressors around what happens to us in the streets and no accountability, like us getting shot and killed. And I said something about allies, and I gave a real example, something that was real for me in the moment and still is. And I had some people reach out to me and ask what they can do. And for the purposes of this video, I'll say white and black. I had some white people reach out to me asking what they could do because they consider themselves allies. And I consider them allies as well, because I know that my kids would be safe with them, right? And for those people that were like, what the heck is this guy talking about kids safe? Like, you can go back and check the video. For right now, we're here for a different purpose. So I called on Mike because I know I can have this conversation with Mike, because those people had the faith to have the conversation with me, and I got to listen and I got to speak. So Mike agreed to come onto this video with me and discuss what can we as a people do. So Mike and I are going to talk about, for both parties, for black and white, what's one of the main things that we can do in this. And the thing that I was coming to Mike with is a safe place to be that's judgment free. So I'm going to have my comments on that. I spoke long enough. Mike, I'd like, if you can, man, can you share, like, with, well, first, can you share based on a little bit about what you do as far as social justice, and then like your response to what's happening, and then we can dive into what can be done if you're open to doing that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paul. So I said friend, right? And friend is a word that we use very loosely in our culture, right? So yeah, so more than that, right? When I met Paul at the Mankind Project, there was a connection, and we kind of unpacked that connection. There was really the shared value for justice, for humanity, for healing, right? And that's where we're connecting, and that's what brings us here today, because to build. Reactions to what is going on now. We have yet another instance of racial hatred, racial oppression that's at the forefront and is impacting us all. And when Paul reached out to me to say, hey, a lot of white people are contacting him, what could we do? That's very, inspiring to me, because we want to get together. We want to create a critical mass of white people who say enough, a critical mass of white people leading with their hearts, who want to reclaim our humanity, who want to create the world that we want for our kids, but for everybody, right? That same love, to lead with that. To lead with that same kind of love. So I'm involved with racial justice work. It's been my sort of guiding value for the last, at least, I claim 1991 as sort of my official entry with the unrest in Crown Heights, is really what brought me into the movement. And most recently, I work with a group, an organization called White People Confronting Racism, in which we do a 3-day workshop where white people get together to take a look at themselves, how our socialization, how racism plays out in our lives, and what can we start to do about it to be a force for justice. So I see this conversation now as an extension of that whole mission and vision. And really, to me, the best case scenario from this conversation is that other white people are going to click or comment or reach out and say, hey, let's get together. And it's really not an advertisement for my workshop, but even to create like a circle, a Zoom circle that we can get together, and that we can get together. We can have a space where these spaces are few and far between. We need these spaces to be the norm. When these spaces become the norm, that becomes the tipping point in my estimation, right? So this is to put another weight on that side of the scale of justice.
No, thank you, brother, man. Appreciate you for this, man. And I'm thank you for expressing the intention too, because Mike, that's exactly what I'm looking to do for this too, is start to create these circles. So what our thoughts are as far as what we both were talking about for both parties, for white people to have those circles, to be judgment free, to express. We talked about one of the things I'm hearing is to express the fears. What are the fears really? Express what's really going on, and have a space in that circle to dive underneath that. And as Mike and I were talking, I say it's the same thing for people of color, for Black people. So we have these circles, these spaces, free of like a label. And what I mean by that is like outside of the church or outside of like work, like a space for community to be with community and to express what's real. And I'm blessed because whether it's MKP or like like Mike invited me to a circle out in Philly that I'm excited to be a part of, and we start to chop down some of these barriers. And Mike, what I'm finding is, especially in regards to what happened with Ahmaud, is it was re-triggering some trauma within me. I'm going to post something about this in another video, but it would trigger trauma within me that, when I'm in spaces with white people, I'm in fear, or I feel unsafe to really truly express. And when I'm in a circle of brothers, man, of Black people, I can begin to, I can begin to let down the guard, really say what's what, have my anger, have my sadness. And I recognize what's been helpful is it gives me the opportunity, Mike, to go underneath what's happening and get to the real. Like, okay, I have a fear about this. Okay, what's underneath this fear? What was the experience? Because I'm finding that a lot for me is like, while I'm doing my work, there's some generational shit and internal oppression shit that gets re-triggered every time this happens, and that creates this distance and this distrust in a lot of things.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I'm talking, when I say a lot of things, like beyond white people, I'm talking even systemic shit. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, the systemic shit, no doubt, right? And there's a parallel process with white people. It's like when we get together, right, whether among ourselves or cross culturally, there's this truth that I was raised to fear you. I was raised to think that I'm superior to you. Each and every one of us white people were raised with that message from the time we were. When we dig into this, and white people really start to reflect, I started to reflect. I remember, these are memories I have as early as I remember myself. Right? Getting these messages about who I am as a racial being. This is not about a damnation of my family. This is socialized to become white. Each and every one of us have, right? And we get to a certain age, most of us. Well, listen, some of us embrace that superiority, right? And I doubt they're going to be tuning in today. But for those who don't, right, at some point we recognize that to some degree, and it really pains us that happens, right? And we go to like extremes to not act on it, right? But we do so in a way that's like, it's so hot, you don't want to touch it, and you pull away, right?
Right.
we need the space that we can kind of look at it and see how it has shaped us, right? So we can begin to mold in another direction. So we want to create safe spaces, like Paul said, right? But we don't want to confuse safety and comfort, right? So we're gonna, create like
Thank you
voluntary
for that.
uncomfortable safe spaces, right, where we can dig into this stuff, right? Because it pains me to look you kind of in the eye here, right, and say how I was taught to fear you and my socialization of superiority, right? But to shed that skin and to get to our humanity, we got to name it, right? And that's
Yep.
uncomfortable to name, and we got to do this together. We got to, from my perspective, with white people, there's this what we call now call out culture. We got to get away from that call out culture, because it's not, there's no superiority among us, but we were all raised to be white, and
Right.
if we see someone acting in ways that we don't like, chances are there was a point in our lives that we thought the same way. It's all one, right? So we need to call each other in with love, get together, get together among ourselves, so that when we go interact with others, cross-racially, cross-culturally, that we're not microaggressing outside of our awareness, that we're not throwing elbows, without realizing that we're hurting others. That's how the whole white people confronting racism curriculum got started. People of
But
color.
wait, what is that curriculum? Is that the curriculum that you're working in now, or?
Yes, yeah, that's the
Okay.
curriculum I'm working now, and that you're on the board of, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just planted a little seed. I want to make sure the people
Yes.
that have yet to really
Thank you,
know
thank
what it
you.
is. Yes.
Thank you for setting that up. Yeah, right. So, with that curriculum, we got messages from people of color that saying, here's what white people are doing without even realizing they're doing it. Here's what we need you to teach them, because we're getting exhausted teaching them. Good-natured, good-willing, well-intentioned white people. They're derailing movements. They're centering themselves. They're taking over leadership, thinking they have the best ideas, so on and so forth, right? So we need you to get together with them and teach them and work with them, right? And from there, it really gets to, it's not just really me teaching them, it's like, because I'm in it too, right? I'm a work in progress process too. We're in this together, right? And we need this this coalition of the willing, right? We need people to get together to say, this is all the people who are posting, I'm going to run for Arbery, right? Okay, good. Stand up, be seen that you're here, but we got to get together and do, right?
Right.
Let that be a portal, that running for Arbery. I'm glad it touched your heart. I'm glad you're outraged and you shared it, right? You're saying, here I am, right?
Right.
Okay, so now I see you, right? Now let's come together. Let's unpack, let's build, right? This is yet another opportunity within the crisis. And I know it can be tiring, because with my consciousness raised with Rodney King, you're thinking this is going to be the one, and that's 1991 already, and there's been countless others that are public since then, infinitely more that are not public since then, right? Wondering, when is this going to be the one? But hey, one of these is going to be the one.
Oh man. So couple things, bro, because first, when you talked about, coming back to what you just said, like with the run for Arbery, and while I do appreciate that, and like, hey, listen, that's thank you, right? Thank you. Like you said, I see you. I think the thing for me as a black man is, there is the flash in the pan response. It's like something happens, boom, okay, I did this, all right, I'm good. Now what? And this is something I'm finding for myself. So I want this to be free of like, hey, this is what you're doing. I'm talking about for me, because like I could be doing something too. What am I doing for myself, for my people, where it's like, okay, this isn't some flash in the pan, I go donate, or I go make a call, or I go run, and then nothing freaking happens. So the thing I'm inviting here for myself and for others is like, what's the consistent actions that are taken from that? Because that way, when I did my work around this, because I had a lot of anger around this, and among other things, like this uncertainty in the collective, I recognized like, oh snap, sorry, my battery's going. I recognized like, wait a second, like there's these people sacrifice themselves. They've been a sacrifice, right? So how do I make good on the sacrifice? If someone's giving me something, they gave their life for something. What do I do to make good on that, to build on that, rather than be like, thanks and nothing. Like it's just like, okay, I gave this for you. Yeah, celebration. It's like when my both my parents are gone. So it's like when someone passes, it's like that first week you hear from everybody. How you doing? How you doing? A month later, I don't hear shit. You know what I mean? And I'm still hurting. I'm still freaking grieving. It's hurt my heart. I'm torn apart. And I don't hear from the same people like I did beforehand. You see what I'm saying, Mike?
I do. If I could just run with that analogy to what we're talking about here.
What's that?
I mean, if really we're all grieving right now, you know, not just loss of loved ones, back to racial justice, right? When
Thank you, brother.
Killed, right? That when people are murdered because of race, you know, this is not me doing this for Paul. This is not me doing this for Black, Indigenous people of color, right? This is me reclaiming my humanity. Yes, and you know, doing it for those who are oppressed, and doing it for us, right? Doing it for this world that we want to create, because we're all in so much pain and not aware of the pain. How can you not be, right? Like when you're a kid, or if you have a kid, right? If you ever walk past, like, we can walk past homeless people, right? Most of us are trained to do that over time, right? But if you're taking your kid to the city for the first time and they're seeing homeless people, they cringe, right? You know, you got to learn. You got to harden your heart. You got to like Pharaoh, right? You know, you got to, you know, that harden in order to walk past, right? We need to rip that open. We need to feel outrage, pain, anger all together, right? When injustice based on just how you're born, what skin you wind up in, you know, what gender you wind in, what sexual orientation you want, all these things, right? That we kill, right? With this, it's how do you live with this, right? So together, right? That's the whole. This, you know, to me, this is all about let's get together now, right? Now, let's do this. Let's do this. And like, you know, and we don't know exactly what to do, right? It's not like come together or come with me, come with Paul. We're going to give you the 10-point plan, because we don't have that, right? But we co-create. We're going to come together and co-create with our collective wisdom, drawing on the wisdom of the ancestors. You know, there's been, you know, when people were enslaved, they were Nat Turners. When people were enslaved, they were abolitionists, right? There's a history that we're all building on, right? So we want to get together, you know, with that ancient wisdom, with our current wisdom, and be in process together now.
Yeah, man, it's so interesting. Because, and when we talk about being in process, I want to have this distinction here of like be together and in process with people that look like you, and also be in that process with people that look different than you. Because, and my thing is to do it in that order for this kind of work, because, you know, this coming back to something that you said prior, where you talked about as white people, like, you know, you've been taught to fear, you've been taught to hate. I think one of the things that for me as a Black person, when I went to this course called Bridges and Boundaries, I really understood how I was living my life from this internal oppression piece, where it's, and an example for me, Mike, is, listen, I got to be twice as good as you and be humble about it. Okay. And like for Black people, I know for me, like one of the things I learned as I'm doing my work is that, you know, my mom would always be on me to freaking fight and be on my ass to be safe and be like cordial and be dis and polite and all these things. And one of my teachers, actually from MKP, said, you know, Henry Thurman said, you know, Paul, back in the day, slave mothers would make their sons ignorant and docile, so they wouldn't be trophies for the slave hunters. And I was like, oh shit, I just had to breathe on that. So me as a Black person, man, I have this stuff that I'm feeding into the narrative of what I see on TV, this callousness, this Pharaoh's heart of a Black man getting shot again. So unconsciously, there's a message of my life doesn't mean shit. Okay, so in order for us to progress and really do something, we get to understand that we're on the same. Everybody's on the level, bringing a different perspective and tint, rather than one person's up here and we're down here. Because it's something that until we get in circles at this point, Mike, until we get in circles and really talk this through, what happens is going to continue to happen. Because when we're in circles, we can do our work. We can understand that if I express the thing that I am most ashamed of, or the thing that I'm looking to repress, until that happens, like I'm gonna still act out in unconscious ways and say like, I'm doing this though. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And what's behind that? You see what I'm saying? So that's why, and I want to switch right now to, especially like, so Mike and I are having this dialogue, and the key thing that we're inviting more people to do, more leaders in communities of all colors and races, and gender, to have these circles. If you're looking to do something, like, great to run, but also have these circles of your people where you can be in a space that's judgment free and safe to express what's up, and being outside of that woke culture. So if somebody, for example, if somebody that's in your a white person, if somebody's in your circle and they say some racist shit, be free of jumping down their freaking throat. Take that time, be like, tell me about what's the first time you took on that belief. Tell me about the first time that happened. Like, is that true? Because until we can get to look and have that mirror in front of us and really look at the beliefs and conditionings we've been put in, we put ourselves in, shit gonna change. And this is about personal leadership, because I think that this is what this is about too, Mike, is be internally powered to rise above. Because revolution does not bring evolution, justice never brings peace. If we do not take on leadership of our own lives, we will continue to be manipulated by the past.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And this is a narrative. Like I tell, especially when I work with young men of color, I'm like, man, the narrative is all slave days and stuff like that. Next time I see you guys, I want you guys to research a black inventor that lived and thrived during that time. Because it's out there, that's history there, but it's not put in the books. It's put in like, you've been captive. You've been this. Like, hold up, what?
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, we're in process of researching colleges for my daughter. For people who don't know me, my wife is a black woman. We have mixed children, and we're looking at HBCUs. For my Hannah, who's a junior in high school, and looking at the history, right? That these colleges and universities sprung up in like Reconstruction. It's like, wow. Imagine that, what it took when people were being lynched, right, on a regular, right? Colleges and universities are arising, right? So, and here we are, and here we are, right? People are being lynched, not in the same kind of way, but maybe in the same concept, right? And that quote that you were saying, too, I had something to say about that. Like, if you're taking leadership, right? Because at this point, being like nice is not enough, right? You said something earlier in our conversation about you're not just the people, the system, right? So we could be kind of nice and polite and treat people well, which we need to do, right? But we also need to be looking at the system, because you can be like the nicest, police officer in the world, right? But if you're working for a racist system, you're going to be participating in racism, right? Or whatever field you're in. I shouldn't even single out cops here, as a psychologist, right? I can practice psychology in a way that can promote liberation, right? Or I can practice psychology in a way that's going to promote oppression, right? And if I don't put a justice lens on what I'm doing, right? Whether I'm a therapist, a police officer, a yoga instructor, whatever line of work that you're in, right? Or wherever you go through life and interact with systems, with public schools or your communities, your houses of worship, right? If you're not naming this stuff there, right, and you're just being like a good person, like you're kind of passively promoting these systems of oppression, right? And it's a big leap. It's a big risk, to be one person doing that, right? But if we do this in community, if we do it together, if we have our backs, each other's backs, and support each other in challenging these systems and transforming these systems, right? Then we have a chance. This is not an individual game, right? It's not a game at all. It's not an individual endeavor, right? This is something we need to do together. So again, this conversation is an invitation for community starting here, starting now. On you'll see this on Facebook, right? So on Facebook, it's a chance to do something, to do justice on Facebook. To build. To build. Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So listen. So from this place, let's set the invitation in concrete. What Mike and I are inviting you to do, regardless of your color, this is something that means something to you, to step up and host these types of circles. Okay. Step up and host these types of circles. And if you're like, I don't know what the heck that even means, Paul, I'm glad you're thinking that, because I got some guidelines for you. If you decide that you want to host and you want to step into your courage to host these circles, here's some things. Either learn how to facilitate trauma work, or connect with the facilitator guide that can help you in these circles. So Mike and I are putting ourselves out here. We may not be able to be there with you. However, we can offer some insight if we can, or I don't know what it looks like, depending on our schedules, but we are here to help you with that guide. Another thing, if you're going to host these circles, make sure that you have ground rules. I know Mike has some ground rules that he has for his projects. I have some that I have for mine. It helps to set the container. For example, one of the things that Mike and I did before we even got on this call is we lit sage and we honored the ancestors in all directions, okay? Hold and honor something sacred can be a ground rule. Participation can be a ground rule, so someone could pass. Judgment freedom is a ground rule, so it's free of judgment. And also confidentiality. So what happens in that circle stays in that circle. Vegas, baby, that's what's up. And I mean that. What happens in that circle stays in that circle. Because if you really want to move into some things, you get to set the container for vulnerability and compassion and empathy. Another piece, make sure that everyone's willing and everyone's going to take on the ability to listen completely to another. Mike, do you have any other ground rules for people for people that are stepping up to host these circles?
What I would actually really recommend, if you want to do a circle, right, is like let's do a circle, right? Put in the comments, hey Mike, I want to do a circle, right?
Okay, word.
A circle, and we'll flesh this out. I mean, these are great things to start. What Paul's saying, and there's lots of great references. But I would certainly be, I'd be overjoyed, man, if a few people said, hey, let's make a circle, and then from there we can make our own circles, and and so on, and we can talk about how to really do this.
What's up? I'm game. So you guys heard it, man. When you hear this, leave a comment. Mike, I want to host a circle. Paul, I want to host a circle. So then again, like I said, we can flesh this out. We could take these steps. I know I got a circle coming up when this video is recorded. It's mid-May. I have a circle coming up called the BIPOC Collective. It's going to be on, I think it's May 23rd. I don't know. The post will come out. I'll see the link. Mike, is there something that you got coming that you want to promote to the people, man?
Yeah. So for those who are part of Mankind Project, Mankind Project holds a white people unraveling racism circle. Our next one, I believe, is Sunday at 7:00 that you can call into for people. That's for people in the project, but people who are not in the Mankind Project, we can do one right here, man. I want to do one with you. I need to do one with you, so let's do one. You can look at my website for White People Confronting Racism. I think it's .org or .com. Just Google that, White People Confronting Racism. For people of color and white people both, there's a great thing called Undoing Racism, given by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. Is another wonderful experience. But there's tons of great resources. I guess the last thing I would say, if you want to do something, just something today, donate some money. Go to look up some organizations that are led by Black, Indigenous people of color, that are doing justice work, and donate. You can find a nice list on the website for Surge, SURJ, showing up for racial justice. They have a nice list there. But give. It's one thing white people can do. We have a disproportionate amount of wealth, financial resources. We can start giving a little bit back. If you want to do something today, that's a great thing to do.
Blessings to the ancestors. Bless up, bless up, bless up. Mike, let's close this container, man. Mike, did we talk about how people can contact you, bud? I know we talked about them connecting in the comments, and your website. Is there a direct way people can contact you, or is it through those vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, those would be the best. If you wanted to email me, you'll see my name on the Facebook here, but you just put my name together, Mike Likier at yahoo.com. If you want to email me that way, that would be cool too.
Fresh, man, fresh. And for people that want to connect with me, Paul25Newell at gmail.com. And also these Facebook, these different outlets. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Just like we carried the container, I want to thank you to the ancestors, to the angels, to the guides that were here with us, that helped guide us in this conversation. We ask that you take these words, bring the vibrations to others so we can truly uplift and heal the collective, because this is one of the reasons that we're here. We are willing, we're grateful. Show us the way, and guide our steps. Aho, amen, ayaya.
Amen.
Love you, brother. Thank you, Mike.
Man, thank you.
Ooh-wee.
All right.